they keep controlling their jungle relatively secure, I think they should still be able to get that farm up. So there's a lot of conditions for both Palos and Boom to find those win conditions. They have to certainly win out their lanes on both sides, and whoever starts to dip behind just a bit is gonna struggle a bit. You definitely don't want the TA to lag behind in that mid matchup versus the Invoker. Yoa's gonna have to pull out all the stops to make it as hard as possible for Mikado to keep that farm game up. And I think in this case, you might have to be more conscious about that triangle farm coming out from Boom, because the TA is going to have it on the small camp. The Ancients and the large camp's going to be stacked up as well for the Dusa. So there has to be more activity coming out from Execration in that jungle, and more emphasis has to be put on taking out that mid-tier one a bit earlier on.
I admit, John, I really do like this this new cosmetic for Elder Titan, by the way. Very, very nice. The whole arm thing going on. Very, very good. I was listening to what you said, by the way, Don. Thank you for that. Completely ignore you, just in case you were wondering.
That's fine. Don't you reckon that it would have been better to have just an actual stapler, Elder Titan? That would be more in character. Or a briefcase, an actual briefcase, right?
I mean, Elder Titan Arcana, once it gets voted in, I'm sure Valve will have to do it. As speaking of, RR is going to run right into Hyde, but Hyde's just going to trade a bit of harass and walk his way back. The Tide Phoenix lane, though, up against RR on that Elder Titan, and of course, Palos on the Morphling. Be an okay lane for Palos, I'd say, right? Like, you can't imagine too much harass being thrown the way of the Morphling with a Tide Phoenix, especially when you've got a support like the Elder Titan.
Yeah, it's not the most painful lane. Like, you've got the early Gush to maybe try to harass out, but the Phoenix doesn't right-click particularly well. I guess once the level 3s are out, that's when it feels better for Hyde, but at the same time, once Palos has level 2 attribute shift, harder to zone out. So it's all about hitting the level 3 first. First few levels should be basically RR running up at them every single time he's got the Astral Spirit out. And with that Astral Spirit, you actually do have to watch out, especially for Hyde. He doesn't have too much armor on hand, and once he gets a couple of hits in, he could find himself in a spot of trouble.
Absolutely. We'll have a quick gander, though, at the other lanes as well, while we still have a chance. Of course, mid lane, you've got Yoa there against Makoto. Now, I'd say Makoto should have a decent enough advantage on that TA. But right now, Yoa is doing a great job, 5-2. Just one last hit behind Makoto. You kind of wonder, though, as the levels go up. Makoto obviously just going to kind of rotate into the side camps, start taking those instead. Yoed, do you think he keeps up here on the Invoker, or does it even matter? Because last game he was quite broke, and it just didn't seem to really matter at all.
Yeah, I don't think there's too much emphasis on Yoa. The key thing is, as long as he gets his EXP, he's fine. If you hit your spikes, you get your spells up, you can kind of combo with your ET, with your Miranda down the line, and that's the more important part. You want to be able to contest that jungle. You don't care too much about how this lane works out in the end. As long as you don't die, you're fine.
Oof, Makoto. He saw that one coming, but just stood his ground there for a second, and he's going to be all right. The arrow did not connect in the end. Easy, just going to make his way back up towards the top lane, which... have a quick look at the bot lane, because our Morphling is in trouble. But Palos, he's going to be able to survive. A nice little Fire Spirit there right at the tail end onto Palos, just making sure he hasn't popped the salve. RR going to get back to work immediately on that Elder Titan to try and force Hyde back. RR, he does have the salve on him. I'm kind of waiting for if you are Palos, but looks like he's still going to be able to just kind of sit underneath the tower and keep his own farm up anyway.
It's fairly secure here. He does have some stick charges as well if he wants to just pop it at max agi just to have some burst heal on hand. So not too hard to sustain. He hits level 3, now level 4, level 2 attribute shift. Harder to zone out that morph, and should be a lot easier for him to find that stable farm here.
Well, let's look at the top lane as well, right? We've got Nico there on the Axe, we've got BDZ on the Mirana. They are going to be up against Kezcute and Dreamer Soul. Dreamer Soul really having a nice time at the moment on that Medusa, 20-1. In terms of slowing him down, I don't see a way to do it with this Axe pickup, right? Like, Nico, he could secure his own CS, but it does feel like Dreamer Soul is going to be able to get pretty much all the CS he wants in this lane without really much contention.
It's just really not a lane that you deal with too well. Dream Assault's just not caring at all. Sure, there's not much aggressive potential from Boom, but neither is there aggressive potential for execration. So in an even passive lane like that, you're kind of happy with a Dusa on your side.
It's cute. Loaded to BDZ, but will eventually be forced to back off. Meanwhile, on the other side of the map, RR having a go at hide. RR will be the one to just TP back towards the fountain and hide. Stick around. No kills on the map though, 4 minutes in. There's been a couple attempts from Kescute and BDZ in that mid lane, but that's about all that's happened. So both teams, again, just more than happy to just let this laning stage play out. Arrow does connect from BDZ onto Dream. In fact, that is a lot of mana being lost here from Dreamer Cell. He does get called up, Nico. Not getting any spins at the moment, but they'll try to get the damage out. There's one, and Dreamer Cell will eventually drop, it looks like, as Nico does get the first blood. His mana pool went down real darn quick.
You can't underestimate the damage from even a level 1 Battle Hunger. With no creeps to kill, your shield just cakes it, and you don't have much mana in that laning phase. So DOT damage definitely putting a big dent there. The Dream Assault have to be cautious. Kescute was also a bit out of position to back up that Dusa, and you're just getting a lot more now for Execration. That one little kill kind of draws this lane towards their way. The Dream Assault's going to have to be extra cautious now, as Nico's got a bit of a level advantage on hand here.
And he does. Great old time now on the axe, and I was just saying a second ago they wouldn't be able to do much about Dream Assault John, but he does get caught with his pants down like that. It's a bit of a different story. BDZ just being so influential already on that Mirana. She was last game as well, just a very kind of pesky Mirana player. Always having those very sneaky angles to throw those arrows out, and it's classic BDZ for you, even in that position 4 role. It's almost like he's playing a core. It's a core role, and it's always really scary up against the pos 4 of BDZ, as he'll chuck another cheeky arrow out in the mid lane, but it's going to be onto the siege creep, and we are going to pause immediately. Speaking of the devil, like he's having a few lag issues.
Well, it's not a Southeast Asian game without some lag issues. Good to see that we've got tradition kept alive here, Mike.
Absolutely. Very important.
You know what, Mike? It's also Merienda time. It's actually Merienda time right now. So it's a good time to pause, go out, grab some coffee, come back, maybe grab some ensaymada as well, tune in, to dig in for some good Dota, you know?
Absolutely. Thank you for that, John. He's going to continue stacking up, it looks like, in that triangle for now. Alos. Dealing with FBZ just fine, but in terms of CS, he's not looking too great, as in the river now, it looks like they have ended up finding out Makoto. And he has the refraction up, so he takes no damage. Gonna walk away, back into that mid lane, just keep the farm up. I mean, nothing to stop him here. Secration. I feel like they are gonna have some issues here with this TA. Makoto just getting the freest farm of his life. 49 and 3. He's just going to be able to go back to the jungle over and over again, and there's just not much in the way of being able to catch him out yet.
Yeah, they haven't really emphasized those triangle wards as well from inside of Execration, so they're not fully aware of the stacks coming out. Mikado's at the point where you can just clear them out, ride towards Dragonlance, not too far off, and this is where some of his more passive gameplay is going to hurt Execration. Like, this definitely favors Boom a lot more. They've got really quick farming cores in that Dusa, in that TA, and Execration not quite having that same opportunity to flash farm. Like, they've still got Palos in a pretty good lane down bot, but I think holding this lane solo now is not really doing as much for him. Like, there's enough on FBZ to stay alive throughout those trades. His farm isn't really accelerating in the same way as our TA or even as our Medusa is. It's always going to be possible.
Oh, Dream Assault. The Stone Gaze off just in the nick of time as Nico, he connected with the call. He's going to be alright, but you can see Dream Assault, he's a bit spooked out right now. Doesn't really want to go up against Nico if he can avoid it. Of course, over in the mid lane, RR going to get caught out now by Kescute, and got the older Titan. He's trying to go for the stomp, but with the battery assault there's no chance in hell of getting that off. Makoto does pick up his first kill of the game. Of course, for Makoto, after that, back to CS.
Yeah, just building up that farm. He's got a good amount of EXP on his belt as well. Level 9 compared to Yoa at level 7.5. A really good point for that TA to start kicking off. Once the Dragon Lance is up, you can definitely apply more pressure with the Psyblade Spill extending as well. And that's when it can get a bit dicey for Execration. Execration, for their part, though, they're not really crumbling to pressure. They're not making any big plays. They take a loss here and there, but they take it in good stride. They're just playing as slow as they can. Look at all these stacks coming out from Nico in the triangle. And that's a good amount of farm to come out on the Axe, who already has that Vanguard, slowly building into the Blink. And of course, he's got the chip vest, as you tend to expect.
Does. How does this always happen? Like, every Axe player finds the chip vest. You play Drow or Medusa, you always find a Grove Bow. How does this work? Sometimes it's ridiculous, John.
Definitely is. I think for Execration, they would have probably liked to have had a Possessed Mask for Palos instead. And we've seen Morphlings with Possessed Mask bypass Morbid Mask. It might have led to better farm output for Palos, focusing on his first major item before going for the lifesteal. But, you know, you take what you can get. Chip Vest on Axe is still pretty spicy. So, still overall pretty nice. And it looks like Nico's changed his mind. Oh, I saw him queuing up the Blink. He's going to go for the Manta style first. So they're not going to have that straightforward initiation on Execration. We'll have to watch out, as that could slow their pace down a bit compared to Boom, who can just start fights with Ravage on 1 or 2, go from there, clean up with the Egg, clean up with the Stone Gaze on top of it, and just kind of force the issue a bit quicker compared to Execration without that Blink.
You see the jungle of Boom now being shared between Makoto and Dreamer Soul, who has kind of had to go to the jungle a bit earlier than he would like. Nico still being a real nuisance in that top lane as he chases down Hyde now on that Phoenix. And Hyde is going to try and run and will avoid the call. Nico, not done yet though, as BDC. The nice arrow out from the Mirana, and they'll just dunk on him. Will allow them to get started on that top tier 1 tower now. The Siege Creep is making its way over. Yeah, great news for the side of Execration.
Just some much needed space coming through to get some tower damage as well. Not the fastest tower pusher on Axe, but you can tank the tower, enable your creeps to hit. And there's no counter movement out from Boom to find her own tower trade. No movement down bot, no movement down mid. They are coming in for the defense though.
Nico going to be slowed up. Makoto, Kezcute, FBZ all there. A nice arrow is going to connect from BDZ, but he is completely surrounded. He'll try to get a kill, and he does get one. He'll get something before he does go down, and now RR actually showing himself onto the Time Hunter. They'd love to get FBZ, but a big Ravage out onto 4 heroes of Makoto with the Psyblades, trying to get the damage out as BDZ. He's going to drop. Alos doesn't know why he's still here. He'll try to find his way out of this with the attribute. Rather adaptive strike. Palos, he's dropped way too low, and Execration, they have gone way too far. Doom Esports, they'll clean up. FBZ, he couldn't have asked for an easier Ravage.
Bumped around Yoa.
Still around FBZ, he might finally get punished as Yoe. Let's kill him off, so they'll get a bit of revenge out. In fact, Hyde now. Gonna try and run, and he does have the Icarus dive out. Just won't commit it yet. In fact, he'll go for the Egg. Makoto. Let's kill off Yoe with it, so the Egg does buy enough time, but Makoto now is being chased down. Kesku's gonna show up. Nico's in trouble. They've got him in the comms. They'll lock him down and they'll take him out. I thought it was a weird Egg to begin with, John, but now I see it was all just in trust of Makoto to get the job done.
And it feels like Execration's just not respecting this TA. Mikado with the Dragon Lance has pretty good range, but it's really down to the Psyblade Spill. The damage reaches out further, and it just absolutely melts these heroes. They don't have much armor right now as well. So you're just ripping right through with Mikado's damage output. Execration need to respect that. They had Palos way too far forward for that sort of engagement, and while all of that happens, Boom are buying out space for the Dusa. So they're taking fights 4 versus 5, and their Dusa is just free farming bot lane. This is a win-win for Boom as they carry on with the 2k lead on hand, and Execration have to be really careful about these next few fights.
Lane, Makoto, Kescute both having a look here onto Yoe, but hookshot gonna be off the mark, so Yoe, he could go for a run and will back off. In fact, they'll go back in now. Makoto doesn't want to be here with the big earth spinner out from RR, and the arrow is there. They will take down Makoto. Kescute misses the hook, and immediately Execration will punish Boom Esports for continuing to move forward.
Really good turnaround from Execration. Palos showing up at the least to get some of that AoE gold as well. And that's a pretty big kill. Like, Mikado was worth a lot of gold just because he had that huge streak on hand. And giving Palos that TA form, even just for a while, does give him a lot of opportunities. The camp dies a lot quicker, although he doesn't keep that form long enough to maximize
Shout out
it for
John
Ancients.
Raybon Consejo,
Still gonna feel
salamat
really
sa
good
pag-like
on
ng
that
video.
morph. SNY almost done, just lacking the Sanj. Once you do have that with the additional strength, with the status resist, it's going to be easier for Palos to put himself forward in these fights and make use of that morph to take some of these engagements.
Oh, this hook shot this time will land. Yoe in big trouble. It looks like he will be bursted down. Now, Neko, he's going to run right in with a call out, but Dream Missile's going to pop the Stone Gaze. They are going to continue this team fight. Moonlight Shadow, though, is going to kick in. Enough to allow Execration to back off. They definitely want to try and defend this mid-tier 1 tower. You don't really want to lose it like this, but the damage is already quite high from Boom Esports, and they've got it. No Ravage necessary.
Execration, it's not quite shaping up the way they want to. I think they've had some opportunities, especially post-Ravage from FBZ. They could have looked for some opportunities to go there. But I think a couple of things here for Execration. They're willing to take these bigger team fights, but I think they could just play the pick-off game, hunt down that Medusa, although.
Where? Heading up, FBZ very, very far forward, out of position here in RR. It's a stop off into the arrow and the call and the dunk. Easy pick off onto FBZ. Even as the Tidehunter, you don't really want to be that far forward if you can avoid it. It was under vision the whole time, and it's Execration, they will punish you for that.
It's a pretty nice kill to take. I think for Boom's part, it's all a distraction. Like, they drag everyone there to kill off the Tide. That's the exact opposite side of where Dreamo Salt's at. So the Medusa keeps farming, the TA keeps farming, Blinks up in Makato, Desolator next. They haven't done anything to stop this greedy dual core. And they've still got the lead on Boom's end. So despite having a less greedy lineup on Execration's part, they're not really able to leverage that in a meaningful way. Boom's still farming just perfectly fine here.
Cute. Runs right in to Yoe. Nico gonna be around as well, and his clockwork, he's dropping low, but they have the damage to finish him. Well, eventually they'll get him, but now Dream Missile's gonna show up along with Hyde. They'll commit the egg, and Makoto will show his own face onto Yoe. I'm gonna get the Invoker. Get a great trade for themselves. Mind you, John, they did commit the buyback onto Kescute, so maybe a bit of a wasted buyback out from Boom, but well, now a wasted hook shot as well. Won't matter too much, though. Getting the kill onto the mid-invoker, gonna feel pretty darn good.
Yeah, I mean, Execration just sort of sacrificing Yoe here. We sort of saw this in Game 1. We talked about him having less farm than you'd normally want to see. It's kind of the same case here. He's going for the Force Staff, he's got the Witchblade, you're not seeing the Ags Rush, you're not seeing the typical complement on the Invoker, so it's going to be slow going for him. As long as everyone else gets farm, I think Execration's going to be fine with it, but they need more, especially in the Morphling. It's just not enough farm up against these two Flash Farmers on Boom.
Playing Boom, they're trying to set up. They still have that Ravage on FBZ. On strike, just to make sure they could check the Roshan pit. Boom, they weren't trying for it anyway. They're just going to back out again. It's kind of like you just said. Dream Missile's farming, Makoto's farming. That's great news for Boom Esports. Because you could say the same about Palos, but he just doesn't have those farming mechanisms that can really help him escalate. In comparison of a Medusa and a TA, who both just farm way too fast. I find this build-up very interesting, by the way, John. The Diffusal Blade on Palos. And against Dream Missile makes sense.
Yeah, it's pretty good, especially if you want to play aggressive SNY Diffusal. The Inhibit's pretty darn good to help you control as well. And of course, as you mentioned, against the Dusa, you can just melt the shield. So you don't have too much to worry about there. You don't need to apply that much pressure in Yoa to land the EMP Tornado. You can kind of take care of the Dusa yourself. And this does mean Palace can actually join these fights earlier. Now, whether or not you actually want your Morphling to join earlier up against a TA who's going to have Desolator Blink, Dragonlance is a different question. Because Mikado is looking really scary on that TA. He's just going to be able to burst you down if you don't manage to juggle your HP around carefully.
There's your Deso up. Now Makoto well and truly online. Maybe you'd like a BKB on top of that, but he could definitely look to burst anyone down that he wants to. See, when he does really get to abuse these items he's just picked up. In fact, as I say that, he is making his way into the Roshan pit. But that added minus armor with the Gush as well from FBZ. This Roshan is not going to last very long, but you definitely have the tools to scout this one out. So you're going to fight into a Medusa as well in the Roshan pit, which makes it that much more difficult. And now a hookshot is out. RR completely wiped off the face of the earth. Koto with the meld strike will be more than enough. Into the Roshan.
Shout out JR Barbasa Dichipulo Jr. Salamat sa pag-like ng
Christian
video.
don't have the best ways of accessing the pit. They don't have a blink on their axe. They can't really just zip in on their Morphlings. It's going to be a freebie coming out for Boom. It's going to be a nice safety net for Mikado with the Aegis online. And that just means he can throw his body forward. Level 18 picked up as well from taking out the Roche, so max level traps on hand. There's a lot that Boom can play with. They've got a 4K lead, 8 to 10. The farm between Dreamosol and Mikado is super tight as well. They're only about
Shoutouts mo yan,
700
salamat
gold
sa
off of each
pag-like
other.
ng
So they've
video.
done a really good job in splitting up that jungle farm really evenly. And Execration, we talked about it. They had to play a lot faster. They had to shut down that triangle area, invade the jungle a lot more. We're 20 minutes in, and they haven't really been able to do any of that in the map.
They're not. I wonder, how much faith do you have in Palos and this Morphling going into the later stage? Like, I realize we've said the whole game that, you know, he's up against Medusa TA. It's not going to be an easy game for him.
Shout out
It is still
Benjamin Beren
Morphling, though,
Peseño,
John.
salamat sa
Well,
pag-like
you know,
ng
Morphling can be
video.
one of those heroes that's very balanced in the right hands. You think Palos could pull this off, even with this net worth deficit?
It's definitely possible. It's not like it's impossible for Execration to turn it around there, especially with this build from Paulus focusing more on our right-click Morphling. So they've got the opportunity to just fully itemize, then turn into the TA, turn into the Dusa, and get some damage off. That can really be potent. You're not too far behind. 3k at 20 minutes isn't an outright loss just yet. So you can just keep holding on, keep building up. I think once you have the Scotty up on Paulus, he's going to be ready to join in a lot more often. And he's going to have enough stats to back himself up, even while fully agied up. So you just need to have the patience on this investment in the Morphling, and then you can certainly try to find some opportunities there. But I think the issue playing like that is, again, Boom enjoys that space more. TA farms faster, Dusa farms faster, so even if you're getting progression on Morphling, it's never going to be as fast as these two heroes. And they've already gotten control of that bot jungle on top of their own jungle. So there's definitely enough space to actually sustain a farm those two big cores.
In through the bot lane they go. Why not just go high ground? I mean, you've got the Aegis up. You've seen how hard Makoto's hitting. Dreamosol, he hasn't even bothered fighting yet, but he's top of the net worth board, so he's going to be feeling confident as Nico is going to jump in, but a big ravage out FBZ. 3 heroes already being caught, and now Kescute with the follow-up hook shot. It's going to be enough. They'll get Nico. And they keep this up though. Dreamosol, he'll get to work onto that tier 3 tower. Kescute is going to die, but now Palos, he's been slowed up by the Ascari slow. Going to be quite enough though to completely control the Morphling. Chips away at the HP pool of Makoto. Yoe might have just walked into that one. Makoto looks to blow up RR and does find him. I believe we're looking at Jackie right now with a pizza in his hand. There you go.
Yep.
That'll be
Pizza
enough.
party. Yeah,
Arrow?
pull out, they take the tier 3. Ooh.
Very nice attempt at the arrow. Doesn't land. Just a tier 3 tower, like you said, John.
And they're drawing lines, probably want to take care of that tier 1 up top to really enable themselves to take over the jungle on Boom side. They play really conservatively. They don't expend Aegis, they find a kill, they drop their Clockwork, they take a tier 3 and they play it safe. This is a very calculated move out from Boom. They're not giving opportunities out to Execration. Execration, they're moonlit up, but they don't have forward vision. They don't have vision in that top jungle, no wards behind the mid tier 1, which still stands on Boom's side. So they can't really make use of the moonlight in the way they'd want to. They're just not able to really maximize the axe. Like, they're just not finding the opportunities to blink and call anyone.
Top lane, Palos. He's being targeted right now. Oh, Rocket Flare gonna get vision as well. They'll get the silence off Makoto. He has an Orchid up now on Palos. He just melts. Just absolutely melting there. Will take a top tier 1 tower onto the top tier 2.
Radiant's top tower is under attack.
And this is more like the Boom esports we're used to, John. Very kind of surgical play here from Boom. Execration, they're yet to find their footing in this game. Like, I can't remember the last time a team fight really went their way in this game. It just seems to be all the way of Boom.
Yeah, they've just got a huge advantage to the item for Bill.
EMP isn't going to do much. Tier 3 tower going to be chipped away at. You've got the Elder time to slow things down, and now a nice arrow to set up on Makoto. But he's got an Aegis. He's going to be just fine. In fact, as I say that, it does expire. We'll back off. That'll be enough.
Just safe place again. Boom, don't overextend. Don't give openings. They know they've got the advantage. They're not in a rush. They've got a Medusa that scales. They've got a TA that scales relatively well. Execration, they're going to rely completely on Palos. When we talked about him getting the Scotty, he stalled out with just 1 ultimate orb. So he's not getting enough progression in the stats department to be in the front line for his team, dishing the damage he needs to do. And that job is mainly relegated to Nico, who, again, just hasn't been seeing the opportunities for those blink calls. Boom has just been super disciplined to split up. They've got great gap close with the TA and the clock, so they're not under pressure to actually clump up front. And now, they've got the Ags on Dreamo Cell. So here comes the Stone Form flying out with the Mystic Snake.
And it's so hard to fight into this. We've seen it a couple times today already, but EMP, gonna drain a little bit of mana from Dream Assault. Problem is with that Mystic Snake, he can kind of just heal them all back up. It's not really an issue here for Dream Assault. Make their way back up to the top lane. Of course, mid lane, one of the harder lanes to go through for the high ground, so try one of the side lanes first. Tier 3 just going to be chipped away at. No problems whatsoever for Dream Assault. Tornado, EMP again. Arrow is there to follow up, and they will drain a bit of mana again, but what do you do after that?
There's just no follow-up right now from Execration. Moonlight's up, but if they pump up too hard, a Ravage from FBZ could really cause issues, and they're just playing it safe. Boom. They're just not really going anywhere in... Oh?
Chaos Media dropping, big Ravage out FBZ, just gonna look to blow up Nico. Palos has a Heaven's Halberd on this Morphin gun. Well, shot, oh, that's perfect. Kescute, he found both of them. Palos is trapped in the cons, but he will waveform out of there. Yoe, he is not gonna be so lucky. He will drop. EDC is tired of the Fire Spirits, and they are onto the mid-tier 3 tower. Boom Esports looking unstoppable in game to this far. Execration, they might try one more time. So for one last team fight, it's just thrown out. Palos has been solved. He's going to just try and walk his way away. He's going to be able to survive. But Boom, no, they can't really...
Ooh,
oh,
what?
no.
Palos, no!
He got rocket flared.
Boy.
It happens, John. It happened. Kescute, props to him for kind of having the sense to get that rocket flare off, and well, with that, game 2 goes the way of Boom Esports.
That's a lot quicker. It was closer to the Boom Esports we know with the draft and with the playstyle. Execration were the ones to kind of go shaky. It looks like Axe is just not working out for either team, so we'll have to see how they shake it up. At least they've still got one more opportunity in game number 3.
Yeah, I think it might be time for both teams to just kind of let the axe go and maybe go down some other draft routes. But for now, it is MLP Dota and John X Fire, and of course, we are going to be back after a very short break to discuss what happened for this game number 2.
We're back after that absolutely phenomenal performance from Boom, and we're gonna have a little bit of a look at game 2 and break it down. Now, John, I want to ask you: is that the Boom esports that you are much more used to?
Yeah, definitely is. It's closer to what we expect them to play. This draft was more in line with how they used to draft as well. Dreamo Cell and Dedusa, Mikado and the TA, F to Z on the tie. This is a tricore that they've played multiple times. Heck, even with a Clockwork Phoenix, I feel like this exact draft is something they've done multiple times before to great success. And they just pull it off. Execration just allowed them to play in their comfort zone. And it might go back to that early Axe pickup. We talked about them maybe being a bit of a BM pick. Doesn't work out, so they're going to have to reconsider that Axe down the line.
I was actually going to touch on that one. How much of a detriment do you think that Axe pickup was for Execration? Do you think maybe they got a little bit too far ahead of themselves?
Yeah, for sure. Like, we weren't seeing the impact out from Nico. They couldn't quite really hit the timings they want once they had the Vanguard and Manta up with a blink. They weren't getting the blink initiations we saw, and that was the same issue Boom had. You farm up on the Axe. If you don't find opportunities, it kind of falls flat a bit.
So we saw Boom make quite a few changes to their draft, and obviously resulted in them getting a bit of a win. So what do we think Execration has to do to be